It's a very interesting look right there. And one of these things these meme stocks have not been able to do is kind of give us a good technical footprint to try and gauge. I haven't seen something this clean in a while, so
Yeah, that's a good one.
we're AMC above 60 tomorrow, guys. Yeah, all right. Welcome to the Tuesday webinar. We got the full crew here, full week, no more holidays. We'll get started as some of the stragglers roll in because they know I'm about to go through a couple of slides here. First one, the disclaimer slide for the lawyers. Just a reminder that Andy and I trade our own accounts. We're also employees of Trade Ideas, but what we're not given here is investment advice. So if you need some serious retirement or investment advice, you got to go seek out the ones with the brokerage licenses. They'd love to take you to lunch, let me tell you that. So we just came off of a test drive a couple weeks ago, and we can tell in our support queue, people are grabbing the bit and taking it for a spin and asking more and more in-depth questions, and that's great. And we're here to remind you that you've got access to all of us, primarily Barry from Bell to Bell, runs a great live trading room. He actually reported a real uptick in his attendance lately. That's always a good thing. People are seeing value because there's a lot of value in free, especially when you can see what they're talking about in there. And more importantly, you have access to Barry where you can ask a question about the platform and he'll demonstrate it for you in real time. And we would do the same thing when we give him a break on Monday through Friday at noon. He takes a break and we kind of hijack the live stream on the YouTube side and give you a different set of eyes for the market and or the platform. I usually do Tuesdays. I did not do Tuesday today, and just as a public service announcement, those that are going to expect me on Tuesdays going forward, I'm moving to Wednesday. So Michael and I are switching. Michael did the noon support session today, and he's going to continue to do that every Tuesday. And I'm going to stop doing 2 webinars a day on Tuesday and kind of break it up and do my support session on Wednesday. But the point is, it's a great place to pull up every 24 hours questions back up in your mind. You write them down. This is where you can come in and pull up a chair and ask us to help you with that question you got. We can demonstrate it for you live in real time because it just doesn't work over the phone for the most part. So that's that. The way to get to the noon session is there at the bottom. Just add the /live to the URL. And once you've visited us once or twice on the YouTube, if you're logged in there in your YouTube channel, it'll pop up on your dashboard every day at noon Eastern, and you can catch us. All right, so we'll talk this week about a few items, primarily the trade of the week, which didn't work well, but we can always learn things from things that don't work, and we do have some nuggets there. But just a reminder that we're using Trade Ideas as the new paradigm, man and machine working together. We really can't do it one without the other. The humans don't have the ability to scan in real time and curate the incredible data that we would need, and the machines don't really have the ability yet to manage that risk in real time as things are changing in real time. We're better at managing that, so it's a great symbiotic relationship to remind you guys of that. That's what Trade Ideas really does fill the void on. So today, market recap. Nothing really much changed from yesterday in Jamie's webinar, but we'll rehash it nonetheless. Andy's got maybe a few thoughts on the AI. Nothing really to write home about again today on Tuesdays. The cargo, I keep calling it cargo. Car gurus. The value of the education is going to be in risk management this week. I certainly have some thoughts on this one. It was a real clunker. It was probably one of the worst ones this year. It triggered immediately and reversed on us and stopped out. So no fun, but what can we learn from it? We'll take a look at a few things. What is working? I've got some thoughts on that, and a lot of credit is going to go to Andy, and I hope he'll chime in as well and help me out there because I think he's on to what is working, and we'll try and dial that in for you and use Trade Ideas as well to do exactly what I've been talking about, the symbiotic relationship. And then you can save some questions. If somebody has an urgent question, we can try and answer it, but that's when I'll go over sector ETFs, kind of see what is a good sector to keep an eye on for tomorrow. We can usually find a couple good nuggets in there as the baton gets constantly passed back and forth and rotates. And then we always finish off with a couple of chart requests towards the end. So that's our story. We'll stick to that. And let's get right into the rehash of the market. All right, so nothing, like I said, changed much from what I mentioned in Jamie's webinar yesterday. It's the bouncing ball that bounces up the hill and uses the 50-day moving average as its its support, its trampoline, if you will. But eventually, when the price gets too far above, it starts to gravitate back to the 50. Our S&P 500, the best broad index we have, has just been kind of going sideways here. It's worth a note. I don't know. I think I forgot to do this yesterday, so I'll do it today. The only thing that just bothers me is when I see things like this. The RSI, the relative strength. I mean, technically, this was a new high. I think back here. Yeah, look at that. Andy's chiming in. We picked up a new high by like 10 cents a couple days ago. Not a real thing to write home about, but look at the declining highs over here in the RSI as the market kind of slides higher and flattish there. It's doing it with less underpinning umph each time, and that's never lost on me. So I just want to kind of remind you guys that that's there in the back of my mind. So let me turn that off because that's kind of annoying otherwise. But I think the real story is the rotation back and forth. It was the same the last few days. It seems like one of our, hang on one second. One of our
Got the Englishman talking to you.
Englishman wouldn't shut up.
No.
If you're connected live to IB, you know the Englishman's voice well. There's a rotation going on. Like yesterday and the day before, I think the IWM was just having a smashing day where it had really good gains. It was up over 1.5 points yesterday, 1 point today. Yet the NASDAQ was flat on the day perfectly, and the SPYs were also flat on the day perfectly. So we never really have those days that we had last summer and fall where the markets in general were broad-based rallying with good breadth, where they were all up 1.5% together. No, it's one thing kind of squeezes into the next one. And I did note that, IWM has been the most active lately, and it's actually trying to approach some all-time highs here. And this is really a good barometer, guys, of the retail market right now. The Reddits, the GameStops, the AMCs, whatever you want to say that's bringing attention into this market. The newer traders with smaller accounts, they tend to gravitate towards the smaller OTC stocks. And I'm in a Discord group with a lot of them, and I see a lot of somber faces on days, like down here when the IWM wasn't doing anything and the rest of the market was. But lately, if you've been in small caps, you probably had a couple of decent little days because that's what this is really reflecting. But then again, back to the S&P, just kind of hanging out here, looking interesting. It could go either way. That RSI I showed you, could be an air pocket there, and we could come back down and test that 50 again real quick. But what's going to happen the one day when the 50 doesn't hold? There's going to come a time where this space is going to come into play. I don't know when. All the forces that be seem to have the markets back, but that's really where we are. I had mentioned yesterday, I thought the NASDAQ might have a good day today based on its flat day yesterday. But boy, when you look at the intraday, which is what I'm going to switch to here, it's just dastardly. There's all the movement is overnight, and then a little bit of suckering into the upside because you don't want to miss anything, and then it's just an air pocket again, filling the gap, and then just lacklusterly recovers. So it's just kind of a blasé market. Wouldn't you say the same, Andy? You want to add anything?
No, I totally agree with you. I think that that picture you showed of the SPYs earlier, just kind of bouncing along the 50, and if it holds up and it's symmetrical, we're probably looking to maybe go down to the 50 again here pretty soon. But it's hard to determine for sure. But yeah, it can be a little frustrating when you're this close to all-time highs and just can't seem to push over the finish line. But and we'll see what happens when we do. But it seems like to me, I don't know if you showed the IWM, but that's where all the action's been.
Yeah.
With our trading anyway, we love to see that because a lot of small caps, and there you go. Gosh, it'd be something if IWM hits it before the other ones. So
it might.
Yeah,
somebody's asking a good question. What is this black line here in the midst of all of the volume bars? That's a great question. That's just kind of a rolling average. I'm not sure what the average is, how many days it goes anyway, but that's kind of our average. We could see back here, that during this volatility and sell-off, we were trading above average. But as we kind of creep higher back here, we've just been kind of channeling below average. So it's a volume average line for taking into account all those days there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, Dylan, you're welcome. Yeah, SPY volume, speaking of, I mean, we could just go right to it. SPY volume for the last 2 weeks has been under that black line when it was above with the volatility. So the market gets active with volume when we get volatile and spooky. And then when things get okay again, it just kind of goes back to light volume.
Yeah, it's been the case for a long time. Yeah.
There's anything to say, but AMC has been following. It's even faster than its 5-day moving average. This thing is really actually, look at that. It picked up the 5-day moving average right there at the close. This thing, don't lose sight of it. That's a very
Yeah.
interesting look right there. And one of these things these meme stocks have not been able to do is kind of give us a good technical footprint to try and gauge. I haven't seen something this clean in a while, so
Yeah, that's a good one.
we're AMC above 60 tomorrow, guys. If you like the action, might want to look at that.
I may jump in before that. That's a pretty big move there, but I think it actually breaks the wedge above, before 60, but now another GameStop.
GameStop, all of a sudden getting, it was actually the trade of the week back in here, right there, and then just broke and then gave 30% back like it was nothing. And all of a sudden, it's back in play here, looking like the old school anyway. All right, well, let's not get too far off track. We can look at charts, as I said, towards the end, the ones that you guys want to look at. But for now, we'll see if Andy has anything he wants to talk
Okay.
about in the AI land.
All right, let's do that. Not a whole lot today because Steve just showed you a lot of the intraday action and the major averages, the spies and the Qs. Sometimes that can make it, most of the time it can make it difficult for any strategy that you may be using, whether it's artificial in nature or your own strategies. You have a hard time getting any follow through. And other than, like I said, the small caps today, it was a lot of back and forth action in the major indices, and of course Holly kind of exhibited the same thing there. You can see in moderate profit. Let me fire up the old. Sorry, I didn't have this. I don't need it. I don't even know where it is. Let me fire it up. I'm sorry, Steve.
A man with a new computer trying to find his way around.
Yeah, I know. Got to remember which ones I have. All right. Sorry about that, guys. But here is moderate profit, okay? And the way I have mine set up, okay, I am risking basically $200 on, and this is, of course, I'm not doing this live. This is just for my my AI strategy trades window. It's not in Brokerage Plus. But I have it set up to risk $200 on every trade. If it goes to the stop, that's the max I'm going to lose. This is why you see everything out or down here or right at 200 or close enough. So using my risk management today, still would have netted you about 368. Nothing to write home about, but it's still, I mean, you can see it's pretty much even Steven, guys, across the board here. You draw a line and, from the ones that were profitable, and even on the conservative was pretty much the same. And actually conservative wasn't bad today. So it's kind of a ho-hum day. I'm not going to go through and like just pick out the best one and say, well, you should have done this. There was majority of the shorts today, which I find interesting. But once again, we didn't get any follow through, just like you saw in the spies today. It looks like, oh boy, here we go, the intraday, and look what happened. It bounced right off the fast line, the 10-period moving average. And so a lot of these shorts, one must ask, would they have worked much better if the market would have continued to sell off? Well, probably so, but that wasn't the case. And so we pretty much ended up with a kind of a flat, overall blotter with a little bit to the upside because of this one trade here that finally fell apart at the end. So this one would have been a great little trade had you held it all the way to the close. But like I said, I'm not going to pound our chest on one good trade there. No, well, there were a few, but there was also quite a bit of stop outs and profit saves, or it should be called reduced risk. But nonetheless, that's about it, Steve. I really don't have a whole lot to talk about today on the AI.
Sure. Well, you look at that mixed bag there, and it's going to kind of dovetail with what I am going to talk about. Is that obviously not all trades are going to work, and you know, let's just start off with the analogy. I mean, I don't like using gambling analogies, but when it comes to risk management and trying to keep a lid on
Hmm.
things that are working and not working, there really aren't very many better examples than a horse track, uh, a craps table, a blackjack table. And what I mean by that is you're going to have winning hands and you're going to have losing hands. But the ones that win, they make movies about because they're card counting and they know when to press it up and they know when to really put the odds in their favor. Craps table, same thing. They know if you survive the come out roll, you can put odds and lay those down and increase your odds and manage your risk to the best side. But not all dice and not all cards and not all tickets at the racetrack are going to be cashed. And so you got to just kind of count them up at the end of the month and do the best you can. So are we back on my screen yet? I don't think we are we?
No,
No,
we're
let's
not
get
yet.
back on my screen. So, I've got the trade of the week loaded up here, and this is what it looked like to us on the weekend. Now, what this kind of it really reminds me of, again, what I liked about it, or I thought I liked about it, it's good reaction to earnings. And then right here, boy, this was old school when we would see, things go sideways and flag and then move off. But what I've seen more of lately are things that kind of bleed through and then fake everybody out and then try and bounce. Actually, one that comes to mind, I'm just going to go ahead and type it in here, is an old trade of the week, ASO. Look at it, it was looking really good, bled out and then kind of shake people out and then took off for the better. But in this case, car gurus kind of had that look to me that that candle oftentimes is a really nice reversal candle. And, it looked like everybody that was maybe the weak hands up here that couldn't survive that got out down here. And so many times, here's an example right there. These are kind of nice reversal candles, bottoming tails right there. Usually we can build off of those kind of things. So that was the one that we made a selection. And as we move forward, the selection was also said, since we're kind of keying off of this candle that was also bouncing off the 50-day moving average and the 200-day, a lot going on here to kind of give us a clean look. That was our drop dead. The bottom of that wick is our drop dead stop. And so this is, as I said earlier, is the worst, probably the worst one of the year so far because it triggered us early yesterday, gave us false hope, and then just slammed back down on lighter volume, I might add, which is still head scratching. Closed yesterday close to our stop, gave us a little hint of a possible gap up again today, which was just again sold once again with a big red fat candle all the way down. So this trade is out. It's not working. It didn't do it. You can't sit there and you're on justify, well, maybe what I could have done different. No, it just didn't work. You've got to move on. And so what I want to kind of remind people of is the trading gods were having fun with me this week because every week I've got a few different ideas, and if you guys aren't catching the Easter eggs down here at the bottom of other ideas, this is kind of the short list that I'm working from, and I decided to pick car gurus from that list. Well, let's just have a little fun here for a moment and see if there was any redeeming qualities in there. I like the FNKO. Now this is a good one. It gives us an example. Again, I wanted to go with one of these trades. It was FNKO or was it CarGuru? FNKO. I went with CarGuru. But you can see how at least FNKO is trying to build off of this. It's not threatening. It's giving some sort of a hope that it can do that, but it's nothing great. But that's really the worst of them. Fubo, if you were on that one, the last 2 days, again, is what we're looking at here. Big green day yesterday. Um, and this is kind of where it gets into the casino or the track. So you've got to have some of the good ones pay for the bad ones. Andy got me into Soul. Wish I had sold half on this morning and eat my own dog food and do what I say I'm going to do. Sell half at a day and a half. I didn't. I got distracted and were greedy, but nonetheless, I'm going to let this thing set back up. But that one had a nice run yesterday and a lot of follow through today as well. What else did we have on there? I had Plug on there, Ballard Power on there, and we had F-Cell on there. So you can see out of all those choices, how the trading gods were punishing me for something. I don't know, but that's the one that got out on the email. But it's also one of the reasons that I try to give a few more ideas because if I didn't give these ideas out, I'd feel like not really giving everybody the full scoop there. So yeah, Dylan, it's tough to say. All I can go on is the price, the footprints in the sand that they give us. Okay, so what was interesting about this is that didn't work, and really that FNKO didn't work either. So what was working? Well, let's go back to those F cells and those Ballard powers. Those things are all just those rounded bottom things we've been talking about that just kind of get exhausted to the downside and pop back up. I think F cell is probably really the best example of those. Great volume too. But nonetheless, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to shift to like what's working. And so really Andy's kind of the one that just nudged me and said, hey man, the only thing that's really working for me in my accounts are trying to time these things and get a couple day movement out of them on these bottom plays, these bottom fishers, whatever you want to call it. So we dug up the old scan known as revenue growth fishing. And just for those that have come along, this is today, I believe. This is in real time. Yeah, live always. And let's open it up and look at the filters. Not too many. But the important filter is that he's looking for at least some sort of quarterly revenue growth, not negative growth, but positive revenue growth. And 17 is a great arbitrary number for the minimums. And then you've got these range filters. This is how these rounded bottom plays are all kind of shaped into a corner. We start with the bigger view, 3 months, zooming out 3 months. 30% is our max. We can't be above the 30% percentile off of the lows of that 3 month range. So that's going to keep us in the low end of the 3 month range. But then we zoom in to the 10-day range and we say, hey, we want to be strong in the last 10 days, 70 percentile or higher. What I could do, I didn't do, but maybe I'll do next week, is we could start to throw in some moving averages in here and say, hey, I only want to see the ones that are just like resting above a 10-day moving average. That's a possibility that could be added to something like this. But Andy's angle is to just say, look, if these companies are doing something in the positive revenue growth, that's good enough for me. The big funds are probably going to try and rotate into something like this eventually. And so what I wanted to do was wanted to look at today. And I also want to share a concept with you guys that a lot of the times when I swing trade, I make an entry in the last hour, last half hour, last hour of the day when I can kind of see this is looking like how the candle's going to close. And sometimes there's an old saying, the pros buy the close. And the reason I like that is because if I'm right and the chart goes out looking nice, sometimes they don't give you a chance on the open the next day. Pre-market, it might gap up or it might just take off from the opening bell and you're afraid to chase it. And you're like, why didn't I? It looked so good last night. Why didn't I just take a chance with it? And I told myself that so many times over the years, I've just started doing more of it. So I wanted to just kind of maybe go through this list here real quick and let's see what might look good for tomorrow. That's not on there, that's me. Okay, so at the top of the list going into today, oh, and by the way, let me just say one more thing. I think these trades, they have a shelf life. They've got a limit to them. If I was long LHDX, I would be ready to sell half at that declining 50-day moving average, because that really is the most you can ask of the price action, is they just grind and grind and fight their way higher, fight their way higher. That's a lot to ask to get from here to there. And so that's really the meat of the bite that we're trying to take out of these trades. And I give Andy credit today for announcing to us, and I saw it in our fund, he sold half of open. All right, now what do you see about that? It's kind of exactly what I was just talking about. Andy anticipated that trade, participated in it for a day, day and a half, and when he looked up and saw that this declining 50-day moving average was coming into play, that's an excellent point at which to take half off the table. And the reason you can take half off is because what's to say this thing isn't going to be a fighter and then reward those who kept the other half next week. And that's the idea. So these trades that we're going to look at here, just keep in mind wherever the declining 50-day moving average is really the upside target. So there's not a lot of meat left on that bone. And I think, what's the other one you gave me, Andy? SunPower was another great example of that today. There it is. There it
Well,
is.
the setups there, yeah, I don't think that was in.
No. I'm going back to the 50 moving average.
Right. There you go. That's right. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
I'm giving people a reason to say these trades, if you want to be quick and get in and get out and make some money, don't try and expect too much, because look, this was the pinnacle of the day, the declining 50-day moving average. And as we go through these, that's really all I would really expect to get out. So I guess the question would be, is would I have bought this on the close? Now I want to see some things that are closing strong. So the ideas are probably going to be here at the top in the green section. Yeah, I don't really like that wick, and I think it kind of had its move already. I think I'd probably pass on that one. Probably pass on that one too. Big reversal wick.
There's open.
What's that? Yeah, we're
The
getting
next
down
one's
to
open.
it. Yeah, what I'm going to do next, Andy, is I'm going to go onto the history mode. We're going to go to yesterday's close
Oh,
and
there you go.
see. Yep, that's what we're going to do next. So just looking to see if, oh, look at this. Nope, there's no meat on that bone. Open, we just talked about that. Okay. Now here's an example of one that got caught up in the 50, grinded sideways, and is now moving higher. But kind of would have liked to have seen that one a
That's
little earlier.
yeah.
What's that?
No, that is. I mean, you're gonna see some biotechs in here. So for those of you
Yeah,
guys who aren't afraid of biotechs, I kind of am, but it
I
just
am too.
yeah.
Okay, Soul. We talked about Soul. That's on the list, and I wish I had sold some of that some of that on the open. Oh, okay, so this one's kind of interesting to me. This one's got a really nice sideways tight range. So what we would do on this is we might just come in here and maybe look at yesterday's high right there about there. We'll just kind of eyeball that. We'll put a price alert in there. And if that thing triggers tomorrow, there's a lot of pent up sideways demand that could give us a nice move over a day and a half up to the declining 10, 50 moving average. So that's the kind of thought, I've got for what's working. And I know I like this one too. I like the way it's popped up and it's kind
Uh-huh.
of flagging. I'm going to take out that wick from 2 days ago, and I would put something in right about there just to be curious about that one. And then what do we've got now? It's just too weird looking. And again, there's just not much lid above that. I want to see a little bit of airspace above some of these. And I don't want to see too much green. And we're getting towards the bottom. All right, now, so here's what we can do. So you can take the top list and we can go to time frame here and let's say, what would we have done yesterday? Like the ones that looked good yesterday, how did they follow through today? So we'll go to historical. We'll just change the date up there and we'll go to like 12:50 p.m. yesterday. Oh, a lot more. All right, let's just kind of skim through these. Okay, so we're going to be looking at yesterday's candle, guys. Remember, we're going to kind of focus on yesterday to see how did today compare to yesterday because we're still getting today's data. That one,
New issue.
there's Sol again. So Sol was in fact on there yesterday and gave a little
Mm-hmm.
extra. Okay, we have already liked that one. Lizzie is on there still. I like that. We're looking at yesterday's candle, but it's running right into its 50. Not a whole lot to do there.
Oh, lots. People were playing lots today. I know Barry was playing that one.
It's just froze up on me, which is fine. It gives me a chance to tell Bert. I'm using this from a scan called Revenue Growth Fishing, and we always promise to share any of the scans that we talk about on here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, as soon as it lets me click onto lots. Oh, I'm getting a really good freeze up here. There we go. Oh, okay.
Kind of had
Yeah,
us fooled.
so yesterday,
Yeah.
lots looked like that. And
Yeah.
so again, remember I talked about buying the close, guys. It was with 3 days of sideways action, nice green, only one green candle, closing at highs. If this thing's going to close at highs and it's 3:45 Eastern, maybe I'll take a chance here. And in this particular case, that chance worked out. Okay, here's another one. Yesterday, remember what it looked like yesterday? It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of follow through today on that one. Not a whole lot there. A little bit of follow through there. A little bit more there. They're not exactly momentum runs, but it's almost like you got the price cornered and you can at least see where maybe you can get the mouse to run up to the 50. All right, anything else you want to add on these? Yeah,
Look
there's
at look at
groups.
that one yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice setup. 3 days of candle
Unbelievable.
sideways action. Didn't get ahead of itself, and blew right through the 50 on that one. So that one's kind of breaking the rules. But that's what I want to do. Let me go ahead and share this here. I'll put it back onto real time frame, live always, and I'll share this out for people. Again, because we're just showcasing this because we feel like this is really the quiver of arrows or the arrow in the quiver that's working right now. I talked for months on end about the A table and short squeezes and trends and sideways, and those just aren't working. They're giving us things like car gurus and that ASO that just is getting sloppy. And so Andy's right. These stocks that have been sold off and have some decent fundamentals to them, they got nowhere to go. They're running out of room to the downside. This thing's even higher after hours. There's a
I'll be
little bit
right
of
back,
meat on the
Steve.
bone.
I'll be
What's
right
that?
back. I'll be right
Okay.
back. I hear a bell going off. I think my
Yeah, no
wife's
problem.
burning something. All right.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'll paste the cloud link into what we just went through here, the revenue growth fishing. And again, it's just looking for stocks that are ideally basing and having some at least positive revenue growth to their balance sheet. And what I had mentioned also is that if you want to try and get tricky and play around with the price as it relates to maybe one of these moving averages, you can do that as well. Let's see if I'm missing any questions over here while Andy's checking the smoke alarm. Yeah, Bert, so that's in the chat window now for you and anybody else that wants it. Yes, Stan, I'm glad you appreciate the extra ideas, and I certainly do too on days like, or weeks like this, when you throw on a clunker like that, at least there's some other ideas floating around out there, and the idea is to try and learn off it and see, what is working. And that will happen again, a trade like that. It's just brutal, and you can't just talk yourself into why you want to keep it or double down or stick around and play the ego game. No, you just got to rip the Band-Aid off and say, I was wrong on this one. I had a plan followed through, it didn't work. Let's add them up at the end of the month and see how we did. All right, so with that said, I think we're going to move on to what I wanted to talk about next. I guess we're just going to look at sectors and then see what you guys wanted to look at. So let me get the right one up here. Yeah, what's working? So we got that. We've got the revenue growth fishing in the chat room for you there. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pull up my sector watch list. These are just ETFs of sectors, and usually I can kind of see or maybe point in the right direction what might be in play tomorrow, just kind of based on, again, as I said, the way things closed up again today. And if there's a sector that you like, or that I like, and I kind of get, gushy about it, maybe dive into that and look and see what are some of the bigger names in that sector. And then you can use the similar tab here in our single stock window to drill down even stronger into real individual names. All right, so the first one we'll look at is that's the commodity of USO. And recall, USO was a trade of the week that got in the right direction, shook everybody out, and then took off. We've been seeing a lot of that lately. It's not been easy. But solid engulfing candle today to the upside, but it's had a good run. Nothing really special. I'm really liking steel. This is the one I think I'm going to pound the table on. I don't know if Andy's back yet, but look at this SLX.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Excellent.
sideways, just dropping right into the moving averages. And I know because Andy said, and I saw it earlier too, I like X. You see that blue line there? I might need to lower that even. I want to know if X makes a move tomorrow, and you could even come in and say the same thing for CLF probably. But this is at the point where you can come into our single stock window and you can start to say, well, what else is running with these ideas? And I still haven't figured out what that toggle's for over there. I forgot to ask about that. All right, so back on track. We're talking about sectors. I think steel's the big one tomorrow. If you see some names running in the steel sector tomorrow, what does Nucor look like? Cleveland Cliffs, Nucor. Oh, that looks nice too. Yeah.
That's the bellwether. Yeah.
Just remember where you heard about steel. But these are the kind of things that you can start to get the habit in at the close and say, boy, this thing's shaping up really nice. What's the bellwether doing? X? Well, what if everybody else is seeing this tomorrow and this thing gets marked up and gaps up to here tomorrow? Well, you bought it here because you spotted it early and you took the chance early as a swing trader and you anticipated, and then you participated in the overnight gap. And there's nothing more special than waking up to know that you participated in an overnight gap. All right, so steel, definitely, it's probably going to be hard to top that one. IWM, we've looked at that already. Let's zoom out. Software, energy. There's a couple energy names I like. I actually bought one. It's old school, I know, but I bought this at the close today. I'm anticipating that maybe REI, this energy stock, might have. It's actually more crude oil, but if I get a nice gap open tomorrow, I've already in the money participating. I bought that one on the close. But energy and steel so far look the best. I'm going to say the jets also look pretty decent too. The airlines have been. I don't know what they look like individually, but again, you can take the time and you can go maybe pull up a stock like Southwest Love and then go in and maybe see if there's other ones that look better. But it's an interesting little consolidation pattern there for the airlines. Well, tan solar, I'm trying to hold up the SOL trade. Nice spiky bottoming tail on some rounding 20-day moving average is not bad. I'll give that a B grade. That's extended for the life of me. I don't know why or how. Commercial real estate after this last year, XHB doesn't look good at all. I mean, that doesn't look good at all. Fail number one, fail number two, fail number three. I think the home builders might be in. If you're long home builders, you might want to reassess some of these technicals here because it just looks like it's looking for a reason to drop again. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the home builders there. It's a good mental note I just caught. What else? Let's see. Quickly go through the banks. They've been such a freaking mess. I hate to say that, but you know, again, RF was a trade of the week way back when it finally broke out. But as we get back into these banks and XLFs, they've just been making a lot of noise and going nowhere. But that's not to say that something couldn't happen and get them going. Agriculture, SPY, solars, we did that. Yeah, I think it's going to be really hard. There's XLF, just trending. But I like the stuff that's consolidating. There's the other bank, just kind of going sideways, waiting for a reason. Gold, actually, I'll finish with the gold miners because they're starting to bother me a little bit. Even though I have been bullish, I'll get to that in a second. But I don't like the way they've been falling under their moving average.
Mm-hmm.
They're curling over, and I'm not going to get. I love the gold and silver play, and I'll show you something in a second. But I don't like seeing the gold miners getting trapped here into this 20-day moving average. And it's a good question. Where can I get the sector ETF window? It's kind of a two-parter. And for anybody that wants it, I always tell everybody every week, Shanta, it looks like the same thing. It's a two-parter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the shell, which I can drop into the window right there. Hang on one second. But there's a
I'll
symbol
paste
list.
them in there, Steve. I'll
Okay,
paste it.
there's a symbol list that goes with it. So there's the shell. But let me just quickly show you. You're going to have to create a symbol list by going to Tools, Symbol List, and create a new list. Give that list a name. Now I've called my list ETF, and I believe Andy's going to drop those symbols. I can do it just as easily, but if you want.
I already got them.
You got them? Okay. So
Yep.
those symbols create that list. Now you just close that up and you file that away. Then when you open the scan, you have to go back into the configures and then select the symbol list in the symbol tab. And you're going to have to probably go over here and find it from your existing list. And then once you've got it on deck, you can check it or uncheck it. And so ETFs, those are the 34. And the nice thing about the shell of the scan that I gave you here is if you look on the last column, the company name will give you what sector that is. So you know exactly what sector is going on there. And then, like I said, find the biggest stock in there and then drill down using our similar tab and you can find that. I'm going to end on what I like. We talked about steel. I am grossly overweight in my 401k with PSLV. I know it was even a trade of the week way back when, way back here. It got out of hand. But, there's a lot of things going on out there. And I'm usually not a long-term investor, but I'm parking a good chunk of my 401k in this PSLV because, guys, what I think is coming on the horizon is the old ETF of SLV has been a lot of shenanigans involved in that. European banks, Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, they've all been caught and slapped on their trading desks trying to make money for themselves. Shorting paper silver that they don't have. All right, does this sound familiar? Does this sound like AMC and GME? So this could still very well be playing out. And I'm just going to say don't lose sight of it. You can see that orange line I've drawn there is at about 10 and a quarter. And if we start getting a few more closing days above 10 and a quarter, just don't lose sight of silver. But I think SLV is not the play. I think that's going to be the story is that this thing has been full of shenanigans and PSLV is going to pull away from it because they can physically prove that they own all the piece of silver that they've issued. So that's just some thoughts from me on the bigger picture. So what I'll do now, and for those of you who are still looking, it's in the chat window, the sector scan along with Andy's symbol list that you have to tie together. If any of you have any trouble with that, you can email us or you can come into the live chat tomorrow and we can help you with that. But for now, let's just see what you guys want to look at. We'll look at a dozen charts or so, and then we'll bring Scott in for some announcements. But I'll give you the unvarnished truth of what I think about the stocks that you want to look at. Does Trade Ideas benefit from multi-core processing? You don't really need a multi-core processor, Alexander, because we're server side. All the crazy stuff's being done on our server side. So you just need a pretty decent computer, and you just bought, one from Best Buy, and it's working just fine.
Oh yeah.
All right, so that was all the prepared stuff. Let's see what you guys want to talk about. Dave's got ARMC. Looking pretty
Nice.
good, looking very old school, Dave. Yeah, looks really good. I think you could probably lean into that one a little bit, hopefully, and hopefully it just continues to close with those bottoming wicks. And then PLTR, it's been grinding. That one's certainly a grinder, but it's in clean air. So at any given time, it could try and give some of those days back, and more than likely try and test you on the opening come out roll, to use the craps analogy again. If you can survive that come out roll.
Would
Smile
you mind
Direct.
going back to
Which one?
ARNC real quick?
Mm-hmm.
ARNC. I feel like I need to share my opinion with Dave. Something that's, and trust me, that it's still intact and everything, but something that's always bothered me is when a stock has a chance to break out, and basically take out a multi-month high like it did, and then it came right back down, into this range. Now, I'm not saying that's a red flag. The chart is still intact, but that always used to bother me. It's just
So
like
you're saying
when the setup is there and then they take out the
that's the
range.
day you wanted right there? Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
yes. When it takes out that high, I would prefer to see them go the day it takes it out. Now, that doesn't mean it can't sit there and go sideways some more and try, but that used to always frustrate me. But that's
Well,
just me personally.
we've been seeing an awful lot of that lately too,
We
and that's
have,
why
we have,
I
yeah.
preface that whole thing with it. That's a bit old school, but
Yep.
watch it closely. Old
Hmm.
school can become old school pretty quickly as
Very
things
strong
change.
chart for sure. Yeah.
Nothing works forever around here. You got to be. Another great analogy for trading is your golf bag. Sometimes you got to pull your 3-iron out and hit the ball into the tree because you did miss the fairway, and then you've got to know how to hit that shot. And it's just, you got to know how to be a little bit
Hmm.
well-rounded. Not one thing is not always going to work, and if anything, it's going to get you in trouble when it stops working if you don't adjust. Smile Direct obviously had a nice, pretty good day today. Do they have any news? I can't tell. Good close above the 50. So from here on out, I would like to see a stock like that just continue to meander and grind and hold above the 50 as those moving averages come up to catch it. That's what you're going to want to look for in that one. ENPH. You're going to lock up on me right now. Yep. Let's see. I'm just waiting for ENPH to be able to come up. All right, there we go. Can you see how it's under pressure at the 50?
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about that 50. So maybe today was a precursor to try and assault it. It's under pressure, but if it can get back above that 50 and hold some closes above it, then you might be starting to talk about a trend reversal there. Just the flip inverse of what the S&P's been doing. All right. So a few more have come in here. We'll finish with DKS in a few more. So we've got about 4 more to go here. XPO. Nice bottoming tail, bouncing off that 50, and this is exactly what I wanted our dang trade of the week to do, is bounce off that candle yesterday. It's, looks like it's holding its trend nicely. Not bad. RHE, I think it was. Yeah, RHE, let's turn that off. Spiky, a lot of spikiness. It doesn't like to close on highs. It's obviously something, it's a low float. I can just tell before I even looked, it was
Hmm.
low float. It has that pattern of a stock that's got a lot of weight, a lot of different spaces in between each print. So, but the bigger picture is good because it's finding a way to kind of grind higher. But boy, that's a tricky one. Be careful. DMYI. Looking good. Kind of doing what we were talking about earlier. Had nowhere to go, around another room to the downside. This one, quiet victory by closing above. A lot of gaps in that one, but a very good first start, closing above that 50. It might not go anywhere from here, maybe sideways for a couple of days, but that's a good start.
And Steve, let me add something. This is because I did a webinar about this in bottom fishing. No, that one you were
Okay.
just on.
Yeah, I'm going back to it. Yep.
Yeah, look how that it bottomed out and went sideways for a good like almost 5 6 weeks, and then it starts pulling up above those averages, and you get the 10 crossing the 20. That is just textbook. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for.
Yeah. A
Yeah,
couple days ago. Yeah.
mhm, yeah, yeah.
Like
Wish I'd have
like
seen.
this day would have been really interesting if you were just like watching things, perhaps. Obviously it's easy to go back in time, but today seemed like a bit of a blow off day. It kind of hit its target, but
Mhm,
that's a big move from 10. That was
mhm.
it was a huge
Not
move,
bad.
6% move. All right, couple more here, and then we'll bring in Scott. Where was that? Okay, so BIGC, is that it?
Yep.
Okay. That could have been the blow off sell down there and sideways action reversing off of that, and then a nice doji today off of yesterday's strong. That's good.
Mhm.
If this thing, but if you look left, boy, is there a lot of resistance there. So if this thing does want to move higher tomorrow with good volume, you never know. The shorts could really get spooked in that one. Let's see, is there a short float? 9%? Not bad.
Could be a go, Pauls, go.
Could go pause go, yeah. I know I said it. I know we said we did with Dick's, which is a great looking chart. We got a couple more. Again, very old school. This is the kind of stuff that was just money back in October, November. But I really like that. So there's not much bad I can say about that. It's just if it wants to start getting wishy-washy and sloppy, then you can't trust it as much as we used to be able to trust those. AGR grinding higher, just kind of peeked its head up to all-time highs here. It could go anywhere from there. It's not bad. It's above all its averages, but it could grind sideways for a couple of days. You never know. And then the last one, CLNE. Look at how it got caught up into its 50-day a couple times there. Yes, so it's a grind. It bounced off its 200-day. People certainly do use these as reference points. Brian Shannon calls them areas of interest. Big levels of the 200 and the 50, they become areas of interest. But I would expect that moving average to come and catch it, and maybe this thing, if it can get back above 1060 and start closing above the 50, it might have something. How do you scan for rounded bottoms, Bert? There's the Let's Go Fishing, or the revenue growth fishing, really kind of has two big concepts that you can build on and maybe even use different time frames. But the first one is the 3-month range. Can't be more than 30% above the low of the 3-month range. And then in the last 10-day range, can't be lower than the 70 percentile, 70% off the lows. So you've got to be at least 70% off the low of the 10-day range. So you can use some of the position and range filters to experiment. I don't know if Michael's given it out, but Michael's actually got a scan. He's got rounded bottoms. It might be one of his proprietary ones, but typically this is the kind of stuff you're going to want to be looking at, position and ranges. One more time to load the position into the shell for Vincent, then we'll bring Scott in. Once you've got your account, your scan open and configure, you go to the symbol list. And over here, that button right there, you should see the folder that you created when you were making your symbol list from the master menu up here. So all of these folders, all those names will show up in all of our configuration windows when you go to the symbol list tab, and then you try and add the list. Those the list there. All right, anything else you want to add, Andy, before we bring Scott in?
No, bring him in. You covered
Okay,
it all.
all right, thank you for all the questions, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow when I start doing the Wednesday afternoons. Okay.
Yeah, right on. So let's see, a couple things on the way out. Make sure you've got the Strategy Indicators ebook. It's written by Dave Mabe, our Director of Software Development. You might be familiar with some of the things he's helped us build, like the AIs, the backtesting module, the odds maker, Brokerage Plus. So do check it out, tradeideas.com/strategy. It's a free download. It's good stuff. The podcast, we should have a new episode out sometime soon. Go ahead and search for Trade Ideas Podcast in your favorite app and subscribe, and check out the previous episodes we've had out this year. Really good interviews in those, pretty insightful. There's a code, Sunshine, will save you 15% off any subscription or upgrade to premium. So go ahead and grab that and use it before we expire it. It'll let you save 15% off the first installment. Steve is on Twitter at TISteveG. We also have at Trade Ideas, at QuantBot, and some other handles that you can find. Trade Ideas Pro is the Facebook page to like and share stuff with your friends. And any questions, send it to info@tradeideas.com. That goes to our help desk, gets you the help you need as quickly as possible. So we're going to have a recording of this up later on tonight. You get an email reminder tomorrow with some instructions about how to find it. And thanks everyone for attending. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Andy.
See you tomorrow.
Later.
Thanks, everybody. I'll see you on Thursday.